Hey there, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Purple Breakdown, a podcast covering the Baltimore Ravens. I am your host, Alex, and I'd like to welcome you back for another episode. I'm so excited to be back here, and I know it's a Sunday, and I know I said I would give a little bit of time between the previous episode that I recorded in this episode, but while I have the time, might as well record, and there's some news that keeps coming out that I haven't covered yet, and I should cover. So continuing off past, the Ravens have been continuing with their coaching searches. Remember that the Ravens have hired their offensive coordinator, that mentor DeCosta and Bisciotti had a effort in, and that's Declan Doyle off the Bears. I was really surprised that the Bears didn't block that and him coming over, but I absolutely love the hire. I think it's going to work out amazing, going to work out great. And honestly, if I'm ranking how Mentor has been and how Mentor's been hiring and the coaching staff that's being created, I think it's one of the best out there so far, and that the grade where it should be at should be really high right now. I give it at least an A minus, B plus so far because it's turning out amazing. Now there's also been some other news coming on around it. Randy Brown will be staying on in a specialist role. Dwayne Ledford has been hired as the offensive line coach, and Tyler is staying on as linebackers coach. I really like him staying around because when you look at Tyler Santucci and what the linebackers did last year and the step forward of Trenton Simpson taking a step forward, and yes, may that have partly been the fact that he spent the entire offseason training with Roquan and living with Roquan essentially, but just Teddy Buchanan coming in and the steps forward that that linebacking core took, I find it amazing. I find that at least in coverage in that way and key players that took steps forward, and I really think that's great having him stay around. But what I wanted to cover today more was not so much the current situation, what's going on with offensive and defenses and the coordinators and the coaching staff. What I more wanted to talk about today is that the NFL has decided to expand the salary cap again. And they're expanding it by roughly $20 million, depending on the organization. And when looking at this again, it's a calculation that the NFL makes every year based on the ad revenue, the contracts that they're made with TVs and so on, and how much they can expand by. And this is showing success for the NFL, that they're continuing to get larger contracts. They're continuing to get money coming in, that now more can be spent. And this is a blessing for the Ravens. Now, I know this affects everyone, and every team gets more money, and teams that were in salary cap trouble are less so now, and this includes the Ravens by quite a bit. Now, remember, the Ravens were sitting on a $10-15 million roughly cap space to work with, disregarding what they had to save for draft picks, because they had about $29 million that they had in free cap space, $20 million roughly in there, that but then you have to save so much for picks. And so they had about 10-15 million to work with, depending on which way it's swing. And now $20 million is getting added into this. And all of a sudden you're talking, you have a lot more money to play with in your cap space and who you want to re-sign and bring in. And this is great for the Ravens, because the Ravens were in a little bit of cap space problem of who can we re-sign, because we've got a lot of people that are going on free agency and we need to re-sign some of them, and especially big ones. How do we keep them around? Who do we let go? Who do we make trades with? This $20 million is perfect because it lets re-signings happen. Now, I think this entire $20 million is pretty much going to go to one player, and it should go to Tyler Linderbaum, who's going to demand 17 million, 20 million a year, because he's one of the highest rated and best playing centers in the league, and he deserves that money. So most of it will go to him, which still is great, because now you still have what you were sitting on with Nest Egg is now money to play with in free agency, but that's still not a lot to make the re-signings that you need to have let happen. And I went into this on episode 5 of Everyone Who Is Going Away. And when you look at it, there's a lot of key pieces that need to be re-signed outside just Tyler Linderbaum. I think part of that contract will definitely be going into part of the cap salary would definitely be going into re-signing. Patrick Ricard should be re-signed, but you have so many other free agents. I mean, 24 free agents that'll be heading out. And I went on episode 5 who should be considered, and Tyler Linderbaum and Patrick Ricard were definites. Jermonte Jones should also be re-signed. Looking at the rest of the team, Charlie Kolar, if you're wanting to keep another tight end around. And this is where the discussion with this expanded cap space, can you keep Isaiah Likely around if you let Charlie Kolar go? I think safety between Alohi Gilman and Ardarius Washington, this could be a situation both are kept, but I think at the end of the day, just because you've added $20 million in, alleviates some of the problems and solves one thing, which is that you can now re-sign Tyler Linderbaum and have more money to play with in free agency, but you still have to create more cap space if you're wanting to re-sign a lot of these players. And DaCosta made it sound like he wanted to re-sign a lot of these players, and I know Harbaugh reported mostly just to Bisciotti, but this feels like it's going to be an entire organization decision on who stays within the roster. And I think Minter's going to take a mental picture of everyone that is there, discuss with everyone that he hires in when hiring is finished, and then look at the rest of it and work with DaCosta. And there's going to be an all-round effort, which I love seeing, that Minter is going to work with everyone on who he needs and where they need them. And this is going into, I know we discussed what trades should you make, who should you let walk, and this is where that discussion continues now, especially with Minter and who he values. And he's going to, I think Declan Doyle will do a lot more input on the offense. But Minter runs the defense. As the head coach, he will be running the defense. And it's going to be great because I think he's talking about what he wants to do with Kyle Hamilton and using Kyle Hamilton more at the point of attack, and the versatility that he brings, and that he wants to bring accountability back to the defense. I love this, especially hearing the versatility you can get out of Kyle Hamilton. But Kyle Hamilton being used in the backfield is also sometimes needed. And Malachi Starks helped a lot. Alohi Gilman helped a lot. If you keep Ardarius Washington, that can be your trio and allow Hamilton to be more of that versatile role that he was seen this previous year and the year before that. But it's who is Minter going to value now? And I know Minter says that there's all pros across this entire team, and I agree there's a lot of talent there, but who are you going to let walk? And maybe just cut and say it's that time. And I think when looking at it, there's some definite needs in letting walk. And I think even though Minter values people and I trust in his judgment on who he values, I still look at Marlon Humphrey here. And I understand has been a great corner in the past, but these past 2 years, the struggles that he's been having, I still stand by that it's more worth it to let him walk and get that 17.5, 18 million that you would get in cap space out of him to add on, so you're back up in the 20 plus 30 million in cap space that you'd have to work with after you've signed Linderbaum and used up essentially all the expanded cap space that the NFL is handing out here now. And that lets you make more moves in re-signing if he's going to value re-signing Chidobe Awuzie at cornerback, if they're going to value re-signing Ardarius Washington, Alohi Gilman, Jake Hummel, Patrick Ricard. If they re-sign DeAndre Hopkins, because I know there's the arguments about who is going to be a big X factor receiver for the Ravens. And I will more stand by, I think it's better to draft an X factor receiver, bring in somebody who's younger and maybe not as old as DeAndre Hopkins and previously Odell Beckham Jr. But that's up to the coaching staff, and it'll be more up to Declan Doyle, and Minter will have a big say in it, but I think Declan will say a large say in whether or not DeAndre stays around and works with DaCosta on that. But you need room to re-sign who you believe will be the best players to retain on the team, be that Keaton Mitchell, DeAndre Hopkins, and the rest. And the only way that's going to happen is if you are letting people either get cut or traded away. And I think number one, continuing by letting Marlon Humphrey just be cut and taking the cap space that'll be opened up by doing that. Restructuring contracts, if the Ravens really value Mark Andrews and the tight end sets that he can bring to it, a good option would be restructuring that 3-year contract he got and restructuring Roquan's and other contracts, even Madubuike's contract, and just that will open up enough cap space where for these, if you're wanting to add depth, and especially somebody a little maybe older and more who has proven value like Joey Bosa to the team that can teach the younger edges what they know, that would be a great way to open up more salary cap to bring in someone like that. And I'm still a firm believer in Kevin Zeitler at guard and letting Emory Jones Jr. step up. I still think you need to draft a guard because it's a stopgap match of bringing in Kevin Zeitler for the year or two that he's there before you have somebody new, but you're still going to need to draft a guard to develop up. It's just, do you draft someone early on in the first and second round and have them play their first year or their second year coming in, or do you bring in an older established offensive guard? And my opinion is still in the first round, you need to work on the trenches, and that's either going to be guard, defensive tackle, interior defensive line. I still think if Mekhi Lemon's on the board, it's a consideration there. It is 100% a consideration with how good he is, and I know people have already been drawing comparisons to him and JSN. And I know I've gotten a little off track with this, but it all works in together that in order to make the most out of this roster, people will have to be caught and traded away. Even though it's a blessing that the Ravens are getting $20 million more in cap space because of the NFL expanding it by, over the past 4 years, it's now expanded by $100 million, which is crazy to think about, but it's true, and it just shows the success that the NFL is having and the TV contracts that are getting awarded out and given, and it's great to see, but most of that's going to get sucked up by one player if you re-sign them, and you got to make space elsewhere still. It does not solve everything. It helps solve one big issue at center. It does not solve everything. So I think the focus going forward is finishing up the hiring, deciding where the biggest holes are, who you want to re-sign, and how to go about doing that. And I can't wait to see how the Ravens go about doing that. And that is about all I have for the podcast today. I know it was a short one, but I just wanted to get out and talk a little bit about how the Ravens have finally been awarded some very good news, not only coming with Declan Doyle and Madubuike saying, hey, good news. The Ravens are also getting even better news by the cap space getting expanded and allowing the Ravens $20 extra million to work with. But again, I'll reiterate, it does not solve all the problems. You still have to look at who do you let walk and not re-sign, and who do you cut or trade to keep enough cap space to work with and bring in who you best believe will make this team a Super Bowl caliber team. Because I fully believe that Minter looks at this team and not only sees all pros everywhere, I think he's also looking at it and going, it's go now time. While the pieces are still here, it's go now time. We're temporarily resetting just this offseason, and as soon as that team is assembled, it is go now time next season. We go for it now. And if he wins it his first year as the Ravens head coach, great. That is the person who will last the next 18 years. I full-heartedly believe that, and I think Minter will be an amazing head coach. But this is what they have to go forward looking is who do you let walk, who do you cut, who do you trade, so that you can make the signings that you need, and then looking at the draft. And that is what we will be doing this week. The next episode, I will be doing a draft board and a mock draft through PFF. I have finally gotten most of the draft board together, and I will be sharing that out and doing a mock draft. And so that is what you guys can be expecting next time. I thank you so much for joining in and listening. I know it was a shorter episode, but I appreciate you for stopping by. If you are not subscribed to the podcast, please subscribe to the podcast. If you're on YouTube, leave a like, leave a comment. I love talking, and it makes my day hearing from everyone. I will respond to every single comment on YouTube that I can. If you're on Spotify, follow the podcast, leave a review, comment too. I will make sure to respond more on Spotify. I check it a little less often as I do YouTube, but I will make sure to respond on Spotify too. You guys make this what it is. And I'm so thankful for everyone that is a member of this podcast. Thank you so much for joining in, and I can't wait to be on here next time and talk with all of you again. Until next time, thank you for stopping by.